Hello everyone. Quickly before we start the video, I just wanted to say this was a stream that I did on my birthday in March. I finally decided to edit it into a reaction video. If you want more, like and subscribe, and please enjoy my reaction to the KrakDuk Elysian Drop Troopers video. Of course, with my rants about World War II equipment, because of course I had to rant about that. But without further ado, let's get on with the video reaction. See ya. Okay. One thing missing though. Nice. Nice. I have officially become a React streamer. The horror.
Hi friends, today we're going to talk about some radical dudes
Make the
well known for
video.
dropping deep into enemy lines, utilizing orbital ordinances, and raising hell for their enemies. Who the hell are those guys? I'm talking about the Elysian Drop Troopers, who, by the way, predate the Helldivers by at least 15 years and predate ODSTs by at least 3. So, while most dropouts like COD, smoke pot, and sleep on couches, these dropouts drop out of Valkyries, smoke pirates, drive skydiving walkers, and just generally kick ass. So, strap in and prepare to drop. The Elysian Drop Troopers predictably hail from the world of Elysia. This world is actually quite nice, with picturesque mountain ranges and thriving industry. Although Elysia itself is a nice planet, the surrounding void space is known as wilderness space, since it's generally unexplored and very likely dangerous. For the Elysian system, wilderness space means vast asteroid fields, uncharted moons, and gas clouds housing a crapload of pirate fleets, orc warbands, or even orc pirate warbands. Thus, the Elysians tirelessly defend their system against the never-ending threats of the wilderness. The wilderness in space! Most Elysian guardsmen are volunteers and must serve in the Elysian PDF before applying to be a drop trooper. Recruits are taught how to properly utilize grav chutes, survival skills for prolonged infiltration missions, and demolition skills. However, the Elysians' claim to fame is their rather unique fighting style. The Drop Troops, part of their name, isn't just there to look pretty. The Elysians primarily specialize in lightning airborne assaults and air assaults. Most famously, many Elysians utilize...
So, basically, your paratroopers, but space. Actually wonder how far, like, in the sky, can they drop from? I don't know, maybe you would tell us.
Grav chutes to drop out of Valkyrie assault carriers deep into enemy lines in order to wreak havoc and dismantle enemy forces from within. Also, it's a common misconception that grav chutes are jetpacks when...
Yes, those are not jetpacks, those are basically like parachutes, but better. It's not for going up, it's for going down, but slower, so you don't break your everything.
In actuality, they're more akin to parachutes. These just use special science-y anti-grav tech to slow down the troopers' ascent instead of...
That's why they're called grav chutes and not jetpacks. Makes sense.
This allows the Elysians to have unparalleled mobility and tactical flexibility. Sometimes entire regiments can even drop out to enemy positions at a moment's notice. Just imagine chilling at Camp Chaos when you hear some distant jet engines, and then a few seconds later, hundreds of dudes are falling from the skies, shooting lasers like hellfire from above, and then they kick the shit out of you and your besties. Coolest shit ever. But more...
Coolest shit ever, yes.
More commonly than the super badass, ultra cool, all-out drop assaults, Elysians will deploy elite squads behind enemy lines in order to complete key objectives, or as I like to call them, drop ops. These drop ops can have a variety of objectives like blowing important shit up, killing key operatives, guerrilla strikes, or even just general chaos. General pandemonium within enemy territory.
Tomfoolery, some acts of mischief, and whatever.
The Elysians drop behind enemy lines are not supported after the drop and are expected to complete their mission with only the equipment they were deployed with, which, luckily, they have access to some really good gear, but more on that later. Because of their limited supplies once...
If I remember correctly, they also have very good marksman training. So even though they mostly utilize those bullpup lasguns, actually. They're bullpups, the power pack is in the back. I don't know if you can see my mouse. You can see my mouse, okay. So normally, lasguns have a power pack like here. The Elysian pattern lasgun is a bullpup, meaning the power pack is in the, what is it called? In the buttstock, yes. However, they also have very good marksmen, if I remember correctly. Maybe I think I'm not messing it up. They are trained to use, you know, the resources effectively, because as he said before, they are basically dropped with all their equipment and they don't really get a resupply. They have to be good shots, do not waste the charge in their power packs, which, granted, lasgun power packs can be recharged on basically any form of like energy. You can toss them into a fire and they would charge, but you first have to like set up a fire, and if you're under enemy assault you don't really have time to, you know, get some twigs together, start a fire, drop the power packs on it. I mean, of course you can do that, but I don't think that's a very good idea when you're actively being fucking shelled. So yeah, efficient use of resources, very important.
Dropped, Elysians are trained to be expert marksmen and are
I just fucking said it.
extremely resourceful. Elysians are some of the best, if not the best, marksmen of all the guard regiments. In fact, on average, Elysian guardsmen are generally more elite than other regiments' guardsmen, not following the meat grinder approach of something like the
Creep boys. I love Creep boys. They're my favorite regiment.
Krieg or the Valhallans. They're all kind of like mini Kazarkin, which is badass. And while they're lightning assault, kind of like mini Kazarkin, which is badass.
Clarification. I mostly mean this is this in that they are generally more elite, have good equipment and weapons, do squad operations, etc., etc. Not that they are actually a regiment of stormtroopers, and especially not that they are just a bunch of free Kazarkin lol. Yeah, the Elysians actually get very good equipment. Most guardsmen would be jealous of their stuff, I think. Their ward is actually quite wealthy, so they can afford better gear for their guardsmen.
And while their lightning assault strategy is effective and has many advantages, it is not without faults. This strategy is very specialized and can be effective if used correctly, but
Yes.
it can also suck total ass if used incorrectly due to inherent limitations with a regiment like the Elysian.
I mean, picture, I think it was a German paratrooper operation on Cyprus. I think it was on Cyprus. There was a British stronghold on Cyprus, and Germans wanted to take it to get a hold of the Mediterranean Sea, right? And they decided to use the paratroopers, the Fallschirmjäger. The Fallschirmjäger completed the task, but they had something like 50% casualties, I think, which, I mean, when you think about 40k, 50% casualties that's low for an average regiment, but in World War II, that's 50% of your guys getting killed or injured. It's, wow, that's brutal. And there were actually even some situations when they would fall like on the tree, get their parachute all tangled up, and then a random Cyprus farmer would just take their pitchfork and fucking impale them. Which is not a very good way to go. Not a very good way to go. Also, interesting trivia about the Fallschirmjäger. They didn't really have a specialized weapon, so they would drop without a gun, actually, and they would rely on equipment drops that would be kicked from the plane alongside with them. Granted, most paratrooper regiments did that. However, it would be regarding like a machine gun. You would not drop with a machine gun because it's too heavy, it's too unwieldy, you cannot fucking jump with it, right? They would drop it with the supply drop, right? The weapons drop, like mortars, anti-tank guns, whatever, right? Heavy weapons, basically heavier weapons. However, American paratroopers had the M1 carbine with a folding stock. That's already a very good weapon. It's a decent weapon. They also jump with grease guns and stuff. Some German paratroopers would jump with MP40s, if I remember correctly, but they didn't really have like a weapon. Basically, I mean, I don't know if everyone was issued a pistol. I feel like they should have, because you are not jumping with anything else if you don't have a pistol. But if you fall into a bad position and you only have a sidearm and you have to fucking fight your way to the equipment drop to actually get a rifle, that's just not a very good idea. Let's get back to the video.
Drop troops are basically sci-fi paratroopers and have many of the same weaknesses as real-life paratroopers. No matter how badass it might be, there's a reason that the military doesn't just drop 100 dudes with assault rifles on everything they see. One key weakness is that the airborne nature of the regiment limits the units they can utilize.
Assault rifles. Another thing. Later in the war there would be the Germans would try to develop a weapon for the paratroopers. They would come up with the FG-42 or 41, I don't remember now. But you know, Hitler was Hitler, and he demanded a bunch of stuff from the rifle, and it made it basically unusable in like normal circumstances. But that led to the development of an intermediate cartridge. That intermediate cartridge was the 792 by 33, I think, I don't remember, Kurz. So a standard Mauser round, but shorter, right? And what do our assault rifles, quotation marks, use? Intermediate cartridges. So that cartridge that was meant for the FG-42 or 41, I don't remember now, was used as a round for the STG-44, which is generally regarded as the first ever assault rifle, which is not really the case. I mean, it is the case, but it's not a rifle. But you know, the naming conventions in the English language are different, because a rifle generally is supposed to be using a rifle round, and assault rifle doesn't use a rifle round, it uses an intermediate cartridge. But I'm already probably lost you there because you don't fucking care about that stuff. Sorry. What I meant to say is that is different. It's not a rifle because it uses a different round. It's a carbine. In the Polish language we say karabin and karabinek. Karabin uses like full rounds, karabinek uses intermediate. But you don't have that in English, because why would you? Anyway.
Most notably, they forgo the use of heavy vehicles and tanks. This means that they're quite infantry intensive and, of course, have the weaknesses that come with that. However, they aren't completely without mechanized support, as they do have drop Taurus assault vehicles, drop Cyclops, and their own special pattern of drop Sentinel, which is just the coolest shit ever.
Drop Sentinel sounds badass. I want that on the table. Imagine a Sentinel with deep strike. Holy shit. I would take it.
Another unique Sentinel variant they utilize are support Sentinels. These are Sentinels fitted with either rocket pods or missile launchers, and they provide heavier support fire than standard Sentinels. They can also be fitted for drops, which is pretty badass. In addition, they can also call in orbital support and strikes from Vulture gunships for some extra heavy firepower. Then, another obvious weakness that's related to the aforementioned weakness is that the drop troopers can only use the equipment that they can be dropped with. Some Common Guard weapons are simply too heavy and cumbersome to be used in Elysian airborne assaults. But moving forward, or should I say, going down, another common tactic of the Elysians are air assaults, in which squads will work closely with their Valkyrie in order to complete key objectives. These Elysians often repel from their Valkyries, which is totally badass. And finally, a lesser-known facet of the regiment is that, due to the pirate fleets terrorizing the Elysian system, Elysians are also experts in ship-to-ship boarding actions. The Elysians' typical regimental structure is built around...
I didn't know about that action. That's very cool. Actually, I don't really know a lot about 40k boarding, like craft and tactics. I'm gonna have to look that up later because it sounds interesting.
on drop companies who have their own squadron of Valkyries and Vultures to support them. In addition to
By the way, vultures, they look amazing, and I think they got sucked into Legends, and now I'm sad.
the drop companies, Elysians often work alongside the Tempestus Scions due to their similar fighting styles. Uniquely, many Scions are permanently attached to Elysian regiments and serve as heavy shock troopers as well as covert operatives. With that being said, I think it's time we touch on the Elysian drop troopers' gear. And a cool thing about the Elysians is that they're kind of a rich regiment, so unlike something like the Kriegers, they aren't seen as completely disposable and have some high quality equipment. Well, they're not completely disposable relative to other guard regiments. I mean, a guardsman is a guardsman. They, of course, have their iconic grav chutes, which are standard equipped to the drop troops and stormtroopers, which, by the way, Elysians do indeed have non-drop troopers, and those guys are called the losers. But anyways, the grav chutes allow for badass Halo drops. Once landed, drop troops can quickly detach a grav chute and begin waging war or whatnot. In addition to their grav chutes, they're also issued a respirator to allow them to breathe in high altitudes. And finally, drop troops have the...
How high of altitude? I'm curious.
Elysian 68 pattern webbing so that they can hold all the weapons and equipment they need for their deployment. Which, speaking of weapons and equipment, the Elysians utilize a variety of high-quality, lightweight gear made at Forge World Akatran. Perhaps just as iconic as their grav chutes, Elysians utilize their distinct Akatran pattern las guns. The Akatran pattern is lighter than most other patterns and has a compact bullpup design so that they have even more room for the rest of their equipment. The Akatran has a few variants. The standard is the Mark IV and is a semi-auto only, playing into the Elysian signature precision. The Recon variant is the one that features in Darktide, and it utilizes down-powered blast shots in exchange for extreme rapid-fire capabilities. The Recon variant is often favored in boarding actions or mass drop assaults.
Yes, that's why I was a little bit confused when I heard about the preferred method of combat, because I remembered that one last gun pattern from Darktide, and it sprayed laser like nothing else, and I guess it makes sense during the boarding action. You want to basically pin your enemy so they don't get their head from cover, so you can advance and like throw some grenades or something. But them utilizing actually a single shot variant during their normal operation makes a lot of sense.
This is also my favorite gun in Darktide. I mean, who can say no to going mega pew pew with a laser gun? Finally, and perhaps most badassly, is the Mark IV E variant, which is just a Mark IV but fitted with an auxiliary grenade launcher. Bad.
That is my absolute dream for every soldier, to have his own little grenade launcher. I wish that would happen.
Ass. This one can also be modified into a sniper, which is also pretty bad ass. In addition to the humble las gun, Elysians also like to utilize assault shotguns. Elite drop troops sometimes even use sawed-off shotguns, which is illegal, but officers will turn a blind eye since they're totally badass. The guns and the trooper, that is. Beyond the standard weaponry,
I remember I once watched a video about a normal shotgun versus a sawed-off shotgun, and I don't remember like what was the ultimate conclusion, but in a lot of video games we see sawed-off shotguns as like more powerful for some reason than normal shotguns, but a shorter barrel should probably result in wider spread of the pellets and not really more energy, I guess. I don't remember I mean, my ultimate point is sort of shotguns are not really better than normal shotguns. So I don't know. People just like them for some reason.
They've also got access to Akatran pattern special weapons. These are basically just lightweight versions of all the classic Imperial special weapons.
And of course they are Forge World because GW said, fuck you if you want to have a different guard regiment than Cadians and Krieg. Now they finally did Krieg, which I'm very thankful for because I want Krieg army. And I'm gonna bankrupt myself because of you, GW.
This time with a cute and convenient carry handle. And finally, although it may sound antithetical to the regiment, the Elysians do utilize heavy weapons. Heavy? But yes, each drop company usually has at least one heavy weapons platoon. However, Elysian heavy weapon teams are limited to using heavy bolters, missile launchers, and mortars since las cannons and autocannons are too large for their drop operations. Their heavy weapons are all deployed via drop canisters, colloquially known as coffins. The coffins are roughly coffin-shaped, and beyond heavy weapons can also house extra supplies or special equipment for
if not coffin, why coffin shaped?
especially long deployments. Or, for especially long deployments, they can serve as a coffin. The most common special equipment afforded to the Elysians are las cutters and Akatran long-range ground scanners. Las cutters are simply mining lasers repurposed for breaching enemy fortifications and for boarding actions. Akatran long-range ground scanners do as their name suggests and perform long-range scans on the ground. These are useful as they give on-site tactical information and allow drop squads to be effective behind enemy
lines, you say?
lines, even if they are severed from their commanders. But just as important as weapons and equipment, Elysians also have some stylish clothes, or as I like to call it, drop trip. Along with the special webbing I mentioned earlier, the drop troops wear a special jumpsuit with quilted impact pads for their rapid landings, modular thermal lining to adapt to the varied terrain of their operations, as well as the freezing temps of the high altitudes they operate in, and a bunch of pockets. Sorry to flex on the 2% of ladies in my audience, but Elysian fashion is just a cut above the rest. And by a cut, I mean miles above since,
I love my pockets.
drops. Elysians also have special lightweight flak armor and a pressurized helmet for their drops. These helmets are pretty cool too as they automatically equalize pressure on descents, have flash suppression, and a display HUD to show their drop info. Whoa, that's just like Fortnite. But yeah, all in all, Elysians are really freaking cool. Like, who can say no to pirate fighting, drop trooper, and elite guardsman? Dumb morons, that's a pirate fighting, drop...
That's actually from an official art, if I remember correctly. It's like an Elysian trying to punch a world eater with a fucking crack grenade, which is amazing.
Trooper and elite guardsman. Dumb morons, that's who. Alright, I have a shameful confession. For the longest time, I didn't learn anything about Elysian drop troopers because I thought their models looked stupid. Boo! Boo!
I mean... Okay.
Yeah, I know. I am indeed a moron because these fellas check all of the boxes for me. They're relatively elite troops. They heavily utilize drop assaults, which I just love. They got badass, high-quality gear, they're infantry heavy, and they fight orcs and pirates. Sometimes even pirate orcs. Come on, man! Every day I like Elysians more and more. I honestly might like them even more than Catachan at this point.
So I basically accidentally wrote my homebrew lore to be almost one-to-one with Elysian before I knew what Elysians were heavily utilized drop troops, lots of stormtroopers that's mid-grindy and an average, picturesque was homeward, fights pirates, etc.
Also, Helldivers 2 is just straight up the best 40k game if you just imagine that you're an Elysian. But yeah, tell me what you think about the Elysians. You already know that I think they're super ultra badass. I love drop troopers. I love their badass drop sentinels. And I love calling in orbital strikes to show the Xeno, the heretic, and the mutant just exactly
Calling an
how
orbital
wrong they are
strike.
for daring to exist. And I hope in the future to get more lore and model support since GW really dropped the ball by axing their model line and aggressively neglecting them. And you know what? While recording this, I decided yes, they are indeed my second favorite regiment. Fine, Elysia, you got me. Rapid dropped right into my heart. But tell me your favorite guard regiment or regiments in the comments below. Anyways, thank you for watching and thank you to all the paid.
Thank you, KrakDuk, for the cool video. If you enjoyed the video, you can like and subscribe. I stream sometimes. If you want to catch that, of course, you can ring the bell. If you don't, you don't have to. If you didn't like the video, you can leave a dislike. If you want to correct my knowledge on stuff I said, you can write an angry comment about it. I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you for watching and bye bye.